because you already know them, right? So you come into the CVille, spot here, network, and like it's like a family already.
You don't have to worry. You remember all the names this time.
I forget their names anyway. It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. They know me. It's like, oh yeah, he's not gonna remember my name.
Well, sometimes you're not bad at remembering the name. It's just that you're just slightly off.
Just slightly.
Like a Betsy will be a Becky. You know what I'm saying?
Close enough, though, right? That's why I look at it. Yeah, those are the tough ones. Those are the tough ones. But,
I know.
Yeah. Well, there's a Rolodex in my head. That's the problem. Think about it. Between after 40 years, 50 years being in business, there's like tons and tons of names in there. Yeah. And every once in a while, I was like, I know this person,
and to be
but
fair, you always remember the face. You're like, I know that guy. I've seen that guy. And then you ask me what's his name, and then 90% of the time I'll tell you, and then every once in a while, this is 10% of the time I go, man, I don't remember this guy's name either. Yeah. The worst is obviously when somebody remembers his name. They'll be like, oh, hi, Michael Xavier. We're like, hi. I'm like, oh man, what's that guy's name?
Well, I always say that the best thing is that when Jan, my wife, she meets people, she doesn't have to remember the names because she goes, everybody, sweetie.
Honey.
I said, but I can't go up to a guy and say, hi, sweetie, how you doing?
And for a guy too, you don't.
Yeah, I guess you could say, hey, buddy, hey, buddy, hey, big guy.
It's a little weird. Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe as a kid.
I mean, at my age, I could call women sweeties because at that point, it's like, once you hit 70s, it doesn't really
that's
matter.
why you like going to Tip Top, because at Tip Top, all the waitresses call you sweetie.
That's right, yes, exactly.
Riverside too? Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today Mañana. I'm Michael, joined by Xavier. We got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be joined shortly with Scott Eloff from Ducard Vineyards, and then after that, we got Michael Sloan and Christine Fairfield coming on to talk about box mass and B minor, and then last but certainly not least, we got Matthias Young from Matthias Young Realty coming on. So we got like I said, we got a packed house today, which is wonderful. It's funny when you said good morning. It came to my mind. You said good morning with like the enthusiasm. Remember that movie Good Morning Vietnam with Robin Williams? Yeah.
Good morning Vietnam.
Yeah, but we can't do a show like that. I don't think.
Well, you can say good. Why not?
Yeah,
good morning is today mañana.
We can do that part. It's just everything that follows after that.
We're not that good.
But I don't think we could pull it off. It'll just look, chaotic.
We've never tried.
Our next guest is going to be bringing wine, so we never know.
We never know. After about 15 minutes, we might be dancing in the
table. But how are you doing this morning, Xavier?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing great. Yeah, as you know, warm weather just get this blood flowing, right? I mean, in the cold weather, the blood just doesn't flow as well. Warm weather, boom,
but this
it
just
gets
really
me
warm.
going.
I mean, it's like summer out there. I remember going to bed at night and I'm like sweating lately because it's like, woof. It's been pretty hot.
Yeah, it's been hot.
It's been a jump. But then I think we're supposed to cool off after that. Yeah. So it's almost time. When are you going to start planting your plants?
Mid-May. That's when everything, not everything, but early May, I'm going to put some of the beans in there. Mm-hmm. That go into the ground, plain ground. And then after mid-May, late May is when you put all the seedlings, all the other ones. And because you get one bad night and they can die so quickly. It's like... I've done that, been there before. We should put a little countdown ticker on the Today Mañana website, like countdown tick Xavier plants. It's like 15 days and 14. Sure, so many people are really interested.
Exactly, when's he putting that?
Right. Keep them on their toes. Oh my, exactly. Is it yet?
3 days.
No wonder he's not at work today. He's planting.
That's right. But I don't know about you, but I think we should.
Oh no, we should. Like I said, we got a full house, and we got to get everybody in.
I'm standing at this wine over here. And
Scott already poured some wine, and I know he's got some
Lot
things
to
to
share,
say.
so-
I mean, we had him on, what's it, about 3 years ago, I think, maybe?
It's been longer than I thought, actually.
Yeah.
So
But,
glad to be
you know,
back.
we learned a lot last time, and I'm sure he's going to tell us what's new.
Yeah, so welcome Scott Aloff, from owner of Ducart Vineyards. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks.
No, thank you. So, what's new?
What's new? I was thinking about that driving down. I mean, two answers. One, everything is new because it's a new year, new challenges, new who knows what, right? We've already been through the ringer a couple of times with early spring. We don't have the luxury of you to wait to plant until after the frost-free date. We got vines in the
Thank you,
ground,
Scott.
so we've already suffered a frost event, actually, which is
Did you really?
pretty scary.
Yeah.
I don't know whether the producer was able to get that picture on, but did you? Were you able to? Yeah. So there's a great picture. You see it on Facebook, and we put out candles, industrial candles in the rows to heat up the heat up the air a little bit. You know, a couple degrees makes a big difference. And so posted a shot from 4 in the morning of all these candles in the vines. You know, and the comments are
And
all
exactly where is your vineyard?
yeah, up in Madison County. Yeah,
Okay,
we have three vineyards up there, and the comments on the Facebook are, oh, it's so romantic, so beautiful. I got news for you. At 4 in the morning when you're
it's not that
when you're
romantic.
putting stuff out all over the vineyard just to try to save your crop, ain't so romantic. But you know, welcome to springtime. So everything is new, but you know, nothing is new because it's a cyclical, seasonal business. We sort of go with the rhythms of the season, and you know that's what happens in the wintertime and in the spring, and then we come on to summer and fall and great events and everything. And
But I would say probably spring is your most dangerous time, would you say? Because everything is, once they start blooming, if you get that frost, that's when
yeah,
it really
you
is.
lose those buds and you don't get any production that year.
Yeah.
The irony is you have to continue to operate and keep the vines healthy, even though you know you're not going to get any crop. So that's not so fun. But every part of the season has its challenges and its rewards. We've got a lot of great stuff going on. So.
Well, the reward's right in front of us.
What
exactly is
well,
this in front of us?
One of the things that we're really proud of is we've been getting a lot of awards recently. So I brought 2 super award-winning wines. This is a Viognier Chardonnay blend. Let's try it, actually.
Sure.
It was a what's known as a double gold medal wine in San Francisco. We enter a couple of these competitions around the country, and I like to enter San Francisco because you're kind of in the belly of the beast, because that's where all the wineries are, the California wineries and everything. And this got what's known as a double gold, which means
Wow, that's magnificent.
That's very good.
Yeah,
which means that all the judges gave it a gold medal score. Okay. Normally, gold medal, it's a little bit of like, if you think like the Olympics, Simone Biles, she gets 9.9, 9.9, 9.8, and then 7 from the Russian judge, right? But it still averages out to a gold, right? Double gold means everybody gave it 9.9, something like that.
Okay.
And so there were 5,000 wines in this contest, and 25 of them got double golds, and we were one of them. So, that was pretty cool.
Good.
So
that is yes, that is very good. It's got a little sweetness to it, but not overpoweringly so.
Yeah. And so I'm a Chardonnay fan, so you could just taste it a little bit in there, right?
Yeah.
But it's true, it goes down nice and smooth. I like it. Very good.
Yeah. So that's fun. And after
is that last year's or this year's?
This was the 22 actually,
Yeah, I mean,
but we
obviously
still
can't be this
have
year's.
made enough. No, it's a one year delay at least for whites and a 2-year or more for reds. And we'll get to a award-winning red after we cover some other stuff, I guess. So anyway,
But I remember last time you mentioned, I mean, that is one of your kind of better wines, better leading wines, right? In the sense of that's something that you always have had good fortunes with.
Yeah, we have. And we're fine. It's interesting. This is the 25th year of planting the vines. So this is our silver jubilee, if we can get the queen to come out or something. But it's interesting because, and there's a lot of talk about this in the industry, older vines are good if you can get them to, our industry is really, really young, but, older vines have more character. They provide potential for really exceptional fruit if they're managed well and so forth. And what we're finding is, we've got gold medals on all the different blocks of our 25-year-old vineyard now that I've kind of added all up. So that's sort of coming true. So we're going to highlight that all season, I think, the 25th year. And so
that's fantastic. No, you guys have done. So you've been in business for how much now?
Yeah, planted in 2001, but the tasting room and the public operation opened in 2010.
Okay.
So we're 15 years in that way, and we've expanded the tasting room 3 times and expanded the winery 3 times, and now we have 3 different vineyards around the county. So we're spinning slowly out of control, I guess. But
Well, that's good though.
in a fun way. Yeah. So.
Do you ever are you able to expand the vineyard itself, or have you kind of
Well, the area is almost capacity
Okay,
constrained.
okay.
I'm always looking to buy more land or extend the boundaries with a neighbor. We expanded a boundary with one of our neighbors. Probably cost me a bunch of dollars and wine to do that, but we put in 2 new acres of a grape that's kind of a hot new star in Virginia called Albarino.
Albarino, okay, yeah.
And it's known because it comes from a little area somewhere in Spain,
Spain,
Portugal
yeah,
area,
exactly.
but where it's known for hot, humid summers. Okay, well, I think that's gonna match our area. So a lot of us have come around to that. Now, of course, you plant it, but you don't get any grapes until 3 years, harvestable grapes,
exactly.
and really a full production until 5 or 6 years. So none of this stuff is immediate reward, and it's lots of challenges along the way, of course, too. So.
How do you stay the course, Scott? Because that would be extremely challenging, like from my perspective of having to like start a vineyard and planting grapes. It's like, I'm not really going to reap the benefits till 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
Like, how do you kind of mentally stay into that?
Yeah,
zone?
you got to be ready for that from the get-go. I mean, when I talk to people that are interested in starting a vineyard and a winery and so forth, that's kind of the first things. Is if you're looking for a quick, easy, I'm going to start up an internet business and it's going to scale and I'm going to be a billionaire right away. No, that's not how it works.
Right,
with this.
exactly.
So you got to have a lot of patience, and it's been good for me probably in terms of being more connected with the seasons and the timeline and all that kind of stuff, and maybe it's made me a little more humble or something. I don't know, but yeah. So you have to do that, and then you're excited for the rewards when they come. And the way I did it was I just built it as we went along. There are some of these new operations that are the billionaire guys, and they're building a massive tasting room and buying grapes from somebody and contracting to have the wines made. So we're just the opposite. We started small, grew all our own grapes, made our wine on site, had a little tasting room, folding tables, that kind of thing. And then as it got successful, we've added more and more, assets to the business. And now we're sort of full scale.
How many acres do you have?
We got 22 acres, so we harvest about 70 tons of grapes a year. Which, by the way, that's small even for Virginia. We're definitely in the boutique, authentic sort of category. There are guys who are 10 times bigger than us. But even all of us in Virginia are tiny compared to California. I mean, if you go into the grocery store and there's some brand name that a lot of brand names people know, and you pick those off because of the brand, there are probably 250,000, 500,000 cases, maybe more, of an individual wine. This wine was 200 cases, and the next one we had was 200 cases.
Right,
so we're a 2-minute supply. And it's a different product because it's all done by hand and tender loving care and that sort of massive agriculture stuff. So,
but to your credit, you don't win gold medals by quantity; you win it by quality.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
That's
right.
Sometimes the more important thing, especially here in Virginia. You won't be looking for just. I mean, if you want cheap generic wine, there's always going to be 1,000 California wines you could buy. But if you want really quality wine, you put the effort like you have. That's how you end up with this delicious.
Well, I'm glad you say that. I didn't even need to give you an index card note.
So. You slipped a $10 bill before the show, so
okay. No, thanks for that. So, So. But what else is new? We've got a lot of new events too. So we got new wines, lots of awards, etc. But we're also doing some new fun stuff here. We've started doing wine education classes. People want education; they want experience.
Right.
And so we're doing several times a year where we have one of our expert staff people comes in, and like in 2 weeks we're doing one that's rosés from around the world. Rosés from 5 or 6 different grapes from 5 or 6 different countries. There are 3 methods for making rosé, and we sort of put them all out and explain the process, and we sip them all, and it's a compare and contrast kind of thing, and you go away with a nice buzz, but also getting a general flavor for what's rosé and how is it made, and what am I tasting, and what's the differences and stuff like that. So,
do you have classes for the process of how you make your wines there, or not necessarily?
Yeah, there is a group through Piedmont Virginia Community College that has a whole set of programs, and we participate in those for people who are new growers, or we learn from each other, or whatever. But we're pretty heads down in terms of making our own wine, so we don't really do that. We don't really have classes in that ourselves, just not enough time for it. So.
And I also noticed on your website you also have like music events that you kind of have at your wine
Oh
tasting?
yeah, gosh, we musicians like to get paid with a check when they leave. They don't want to be billing or anything. So I write more checks to musicians than you write all year, because we have music every Saturday all year round, Friday in the summer times, and a lot of Sundays when we're not doing these other special events. So, I'm ordering paper checks from Fidelity, and they're wondering who is this guy, because nobody uses paper checks. But yeah, so we become sort of a music hub, and it's almost all Charlottesville singer-songwriters, local guys and stuff. It's really fun to support that.
Has the Friday Summer Series started yet?
Just now in May.
Now.
Yeah,
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and second Saturdays we stay open late for music as well, so people come out.
That's fantastic.
For that.
That's
and
great.
Friday night stay open late now that it's in season, and beautiful to hang out late afternoon, just sunset watch and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
sure.
we border the Shenandoah National Park, and the little stream runs through the property, and the whole thing, it's like quainter than can possibly be. So
I can
so it's a
imagine,
nice place to get away. It's a little bit out of town, but I think it's worth it. So. We're also doing an interesting event coming up that's for a fundraiser, actually, for the Friends of Rappahannock, which is one of the great environmental groups around that works on the Rappahannock River. And if you drive around and you see all those places where people have planted trees on their property, trees with those little green tree shelters, that's pretty much them, because that's great for the environment, it's great for the watershed and everything. And, they're getting hit with all these funding cuts, so they're in a tough way.
Yeah.
And so we're going to do a fundraiser specifically for them later, end of May, actually. It's on the website and everything. It's ticketed, and all the proceeds go as a fundraiser for them. We've got Sentimental Journey is the band that day. A lot of people listening to this will know them. That's a 17-piece brass band, and they play... Sinatra and Jimmy Dorsey and all that kind of stuff, and it's really going to be a great sound all throughout our little valley and everything.
Yeah.
So it's a day long or afternoon long kind of event. So we try to give back that way too. So.
That's fantastic. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. How many different kind of wines do you grow?
Well, we've got 8 different varieties, and it turns into probably 15 different wines or so.
Okay.
There's a little something for everybody, and everybody says, "What's your favorite?" Well, it's kind of all my children. So it's all of them. Actually, if you're drinking up here, we'll try the second one too.
Sure.
And this one is a Cabernet Franc Reserve. Cab Franc is a really important grape for Virginia. It matches our climate really well, and I think we're really getting known for that, even nationally, actually, as good producers of Cab Franc. And so this one, we have a great contest, actually, a very, very tough competition in Virginia, very rigorous and everything, called the Governor's Cup, and they award gold medals, et cetera. But then the top of the top wines are in the Governor's Case, which is the top 12 wines in Virginia, and this is one of them. So out of 700 wines, we're one in the top 12. So it's kind of summa cum laude, just like you guys in school, right? So we're really happy.
I wouldn't know what that means.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, drink it anyway. So. And you're going to find it's fairly intense and flavorful, and that's what we're looking for in a red in particular. And it's too heavy for some people, but it's got to go with the right foods and stuff. But
That's my kind of wine.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, and there's something
Robust,
for everybody.
bold
But
wine,
Yeah,
But,
nice
it's
steak with this is great.
yeah, beautiful with a steak or roast or something. Yeah, but it's kind of counterintuitive, because the best years for us are years where there's no rain at all. We want hot and dry.
Yeah.
We're like the only agriculture guys,
Of course,
everybody, the wheat guys are hating it when there's a drought. And we just sort of keep our heads down, because it's great for us. It makes the grape roots go deeper, more intensity in small berries and that type of thing. So a lot of things you have to look, not just that it's a long timeline, but this is a very different kind of agriculture.
Yeah.
Every year is different.
So
Every year is different.
every year is
right?
different. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And you can have 2 or 3 good years, and then a year where you barely make it through. So it's not a just-in-time business where there's no inventory either. So you're holding your wine
just to
and
get a
letting it
sense,
age.
how have the past 3 years been for you?
So 2023 was great, probably the best year ever. That
Wow.
and that in
Okay.
2010.
Yeah.
And we remember it fondly. We remember every year, basically.
Yeah.
And then 2024 had the promise of the same, and then we got some late rain, so
Yeah,
it
we
kind of
did. That's
cleared
right.
the
I
deal.
remember
Yeah.
Yeah.
2022 was okay. 2021 was really good. So we're on a pretty good
Yeah.
range. No,
Yeah,
we
'cause
do not
we've
we do
had-
not want
yeah.
to talk about 2020 or 2018. Okay,
No.
so it's one year where we didn't make any reds. They just didn't get ripe enough. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to put out a product that's not
Yeah.
good. So we actually used it all for rosé, and rosé is a very underappreciated grape, and it was beautiful for
Yeah.
wine. It was beautiful for that.
I was going to ask you that because you're having that rosé kind of
Yeah.
Yeah.
taste. It's one of your wines, a rosé also. Do you grow it? I mean, do you have a rosé every year?
Yeah,
Or only
yeah,
during-
we
okay.
do a rosé every year. Yeah, and we release it. We're releasing it this week actually, so it's kind of fun. And then next week we're releasing 2 wines that are fundraisers for the Shenandoah National Park. We border it, so so there's a white, kind of a sweet white called Shenandoah, ironically, with a picture, a drawing of White Oak Canyon on the front, and there's a companion red that's black bear, which is the apex predator, of course, out here. And so that's sort of a matched pair, and we work with the Shenandoah National Park Trust and donate proceeds to them and do special events with them and that kind of thing. So, part of doing business, in my opinion.
Yeah, of course.
This is kind of not supposed to say it, but it's a hobby gone wild, I guess. It wasn't really my business. We're just trying to have a good time and learn something as a late adult and so forth, and have fun with it. And so donating proceeds is a good thing to do. So
Yeah. Now, is it possible, like during a particular year, is it possible that the white wine has a better year than the
Yeah.
red wine?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And we have 3 different vineyards, and they're all 5 or 10 miles apart. But the terroir, that's the
Yeah,
French word for it,
yeah, French,
is
yeah.
different in each case. The soil, the amount of rain, the sun angle, all that stuff. So we can have the same grape on 2 or 3 different sites, and it will perform completely differently in the same year.
Wow.
So part of the art of it is to figure out what grapes, what lots to blend together, how to showcase the best of what nature gives you and everything, as opposed to just piling it all together into one thing. We don't do that. So
Listen, I mean,
Crazy,
you
right?
Guys, you
Yeah.
guys do
That keeps you on your toes
Yeah.
at least,
Yeah.
year in and year out,
Yeah.
trying to figure
Yeah.
out what you got to do.
and then you got all the macro trends where like every other day there's a report coming out that wine is bad for you.
Who said that? I mean,
it's
I only
usually-
I only read the article that says the wine's good for you. That's
Yeah,
the only-
funny thing. 3 days later, a new study comes out that says wine is good for you. So
Yeah.
there's some big California winery that's funding that stuff, I suspect. But whatever. But
Well, I remember when I was growing up, I was, my early 20s, they said that olive oil was terrible for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like olive oil is like, that's the best thing for you. It's
Is
like,
that right? They
you
said it
can-
was
yeah,
bad back
yeah.
then?
It's
Okay,
like back
yeah,
then,
yeah.
it's like, oh, it's no good, cholesterol, this and
I
that.
remember they tried to get rid of butter too.
Yeah,
switch
butter's
from
no good,
margarine.
cholesterol,
Now
I mean,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
wow, margarine's
just
bad.
now it's like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to that. I just look at Europe and say, wait a minute, Europe said, since the Roman times, even before that, they had red wine.
Oh, and they
gotta be good for
yeah,
you.
the French paradox. They talk about how they eat all
Yeah.
those rich
That's
foods,
right,
and
exactly.
their lifespan is really long. So
Yeah.
drink up, you'll be okay.
That's the way I look at it.
And-
You eat all this fatty food, you just need red wine.
Exactly.
Get it right out of your system, no problem.
And enjoy the ride along the way.
Absolutely.
It's part of it.
And when
too.
it's good like this, it's even better
Yeah.
because you have 2 glasses.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens out at our place. We're definitely at the end of the road, so it's we call it a psychological and winological getaway from the real world, where you're off the grid, you're looking at the mountains and the stream,
Yeah.
you're sipping some wine. It's dog friendly, family friendly, picnic friendly, friendly, whatever. So it's a kind of a respite for the real world, and having some nice wine is a good way to go. So that's fine. We don't care about those studies too much. The wine industry is down generally, nationally, quite a bit actually.
Really?
Yeah, and in Virginia too. Well, I think it's young people are drinking whatever the stuff is they're drinking.
Oh
but
yeah, they're
not really
into
wine so
like
much.
White Claws and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
stuff
Except
like
for,
that.
These
Canned-
vodka,
canned cocktails and stuff,
Yeah,
but
that's-
that doesn't really matter too much to us because it's not really our market. The market for us is people that get to be of a certain age and they appreciate experience and they want quality. We do very kind of a personalized service. Our wine's delivered to you in flights in crystal glassware at your table by an experienced person. It's not just a fast food assembly line, drive through or something like that. So we wait until those 20-somethings become 40-somethings, and
And then they begin to appreciate
they
wine.
got a little money, they appreciate it, they want good stuff, and they appreciate experiences as opposed to so.
I think people in the younger age they drink that stuff because they want to get drunk fast. Let's be real. So if you want to get drunk fast, your first choice is not going to be wine.
I went to college too, so yeah. Okay.
So Scott, before we let you go, where can people find you? What's kind of like the physical location?
Oh, thanks.
The
Yeah,
website?
okay. Yeah, well, it's ducardvineyards.com, and we're on social media, et cetera, as well. And you just go up, if you're Charlottesville-based, most of the readership listeners probably are, you just go up 29 to the town of Madison, turn left, and continue on the signs. It's GPS-able, too.
Okay.
And when the road ends, basically, that's about where we are.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're open every day, noon to 5, noon to 6 now. On the weekends, and some nights until Saturday nights until 9 occasionally. So
Wow.
That's
no reservations. You can make a reservation, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
And we're chill kind of place. So we'd love to have anybody that wants to come out.
Absolutely.
Try these wines
Been to Madison
and
quite a few number
yeah.
of times. So it's
take
a
the blood
beautiful
pressure
place.
down and chilling out at our
Exactly.
place. So I love doing this with you guys.
No,
Thank
thank
you.
you so
All
much,
right.
Scott, for sharing
You're
this delicious
finishing
wine.
your glasses
We need to do it more
pretty
often,
darn
yeah.
quick. Okay.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
That was
Good.
delicious.
All right.
Those are great wines. Congratulations.
Good. Thank you, guys. Our
Congratulations.
pleasure.
Thank you so much, Scott. So as we kind of rotate guests now, that's incredible. We always love when we get to have vineyard people, and Scott, at Duke Cards. I mean, was it one gold medal and the other one was a governor's?
Governor's Cup,
Governor's Cup,
Governor's case, and a double gold medal.
medal.
So say that 3 times
Yeah.
quick. So.
Double gold medal.
You
and a-
could have before I drank the wine.
Yeah.
I'm testing you. So good stuff. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Thank
Scott.
you,
Yeah.
Scott. Appreciate it.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. And Xavier and I are wine people, so it's always
Definitely,
good to-
yeah. I mean, it's
know.
it's my favorite thing to do right after
Exactly.
a long day is go home, have a wonderful
Yeah.
meal, and my 2 glasses of wine.
Yeah, hopefully Scott didn't pour too much for you, because then you'll fall asleep like you do every night.
That's different. That's because I've been working all day.
Yeah.
This is the
okay.
morning. I mean, I don't do that in the morning.
I
so,
know. It's always great having
Yeah.
fantastic guests, and now we're transitioned to 2 other fantastic guests.
That's right.
We're
With
gonna-
a little Bach information.
I
Because
know,
I
a
see that
little Bach.
Michael's got this
Michael's
Bach
already
book.
got them
He's got to
prepared.
read. He's got to read the whole book during his next 20 minutes. Like,
Exactly, he's got to catch up on the homework. But we're very happy to be joined now with Michael Sloan and Christine Fairfield from the Oratorio Society. Michael, Christine, thank you so much for joining us.
it's been a long time since I've
As
been able
always.
to attend when you come. I mean, I've always been busy.
Is
So
that right?
I am so happy that I'm finally here.
Michael's always complains like, "Where's Xavier? I don't want this other Michael here. I want Xavier."
I didn't say that, but we're always happy to have you.
Thank you. We're always happy to have you too.
Yeah.
We're always glad to come.
Yes. So I might as well jump right into it. I know you guys got a big event. It was on May 11th.
Yes,
That's Mother's
Box
Day.
Mass and Be
it is. You
right.
can treat all your moms. So you can
That's right.
take them to brunch, and then bring them to our concert
And bring 'em to
at
Cabell Hall.
3:30.
Yep.
Old Cabell Hall.
Okay.
And if they're far away, you can get them the live stream because it's going to be live
really?
streamed
Oh,
as
that's
well.
right.
Live stream.
Yeah,
Wow.
Sure.
Is that something new?
we've done that a while now,
We've
done
been
that
doing
live.
it,
since the pandemic.
basically.
okay.
Mhm. The Christmas concert and the May concert, we've now been pretty much every year for the last 3 years offering a live stream as well.
Is it the entire Bach Mass?
It
It
is.
is.
You know, the first time, actually, it's the only time that I saw this live, Carnegie Hall.
Oh,
Yeah,
I saw this in
I was just
Carnegie
there
Hall,
on
yeah.
Saturday.
Really?
Yeah. Michael wanted to share a story about Carnegie Hall, so you had a
Go
perfect
for it.
transition.
Go-
Did
I
you
had
know
no-
that? That was a good transition.
Yeah, I had no idea. I just remember.
Well,
I-
before we talk about Bach, which
Yeah.
I should just say to your listeners, if they don't know the B minor mass, that's fine. But I will tell them that many people in our field agree that this is the greatest music ever written, the B minor mass, and I agree with that. I think it's just extraordinary.
not just of Bach's output,
exactly.
which is prolific, but of
Carl Zelter called
classical
it
music.
probably the greatest musical work of art the world has ever seen.
Really?
Yeah,
I mean,
You
I know I
did
love it,
Beethoven's
but
Ninth last year.
that's
though.
amazing.
You did Beethoven's Ninth last year.
Beethoven himself might agree with us. You know,
It's true.
Well, have to ask him.
Bach's last name means brook, and Beethoven famously said, "No, not a brook, an ocean." About Bach.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So, anyways, about Carnegie Hall, a beautiful place. So maybe you'll recall, In 2018, we were celebrating our 50th anniversary with the Oratory Society. We commissioned a piece from the composer Adolphus Hailstork on a poem of Rita Dove's, right, our wonderful Pulitzer Prize-winning poet at UVA. The poem that I had suggested commissioning is the one they painted on the Graduate Hotel, right down on the corner here by UVA, right, a testimonial. And it says, "The world called, and I answered." And we commissioned that piece. We gave the world premiere in 2018. It was just done Saturday night at Carnegie Hall. And I was there, Rita Dove was there, Hailstork, where we were all there. And in fact, that was the first time that Hailstork and Rita had a chance to meet, because I think she was in Europe when we gave the world premiere. So it's exciting. You create something here in Charlottesville, and then the next thing you know, there it is on stage at Carnegie Hall.
Wow.
So it went beautifully. It was nice.
That's amazing.
It was nice.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Yeah.
So a little extra story about a few things for the Oratory Society that were happening. It was nice.
That's great. Wow.
So tell us, Nick
told me beforehand, he goes, this is a
wait a
masterpiece.
minute, hold on.
He's got a question?
Let's ask Nick's question, because if I start asking a lot of questions and you don't ask Nick's questions, I'm going to go back to the office and my head's going to be on a platter.
Well, Nick told me the question because it's very music oriented, and Nick's very smart when it comes to music, and I was just like, write that down. Write that down and send it to me.
He's very smart with music.
Huh?
I mean, that's
he knows a lot.
That's a subjective opinion.
All right, well, lay it on us.
Lay it on. Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to read it?
You read it, yeah. You think I ought to read this long thing?
Question for Nick. So Nick says, Bach's Mass in B minor uses a lot of counterpoint and layered melodies. As a conductor, so I guess this question is for you, Michael, how do you handle voicing or Bach's writing without the music either becoming muddled?
Yeah, that is a great question.
Yeah,
in fact, we were just talking about this the other night at rehearsal. So, just to explain to listeners a little lesson in kind of styles, right? So sometimes you could have something like melody and then harmony accompanying that. And a lot of the songs that you would hear, shorter pop songs and so on the radio, that's the format, right? You have something that's melodic, and then you have harmony as a background to that. And that's or you could have something in choral music which we would call homophonic, and it means everybody basically has the same rhythm and the same text at the same time. So it's very easy.
A little more like a hymn,
Like
4 parts, but straight up and down.
Exactly right. Yeah, Christine's exactly right.
Thank God we have Christine here. She explains.
Yeah, she can translate.
Yeah, exactly.
So, counterpoint that your brother is referring to is something that really reached a height in the Renaissance, but Bach was very familiar with this, and probably better than almost anyone at writing 4 or more independent voices. So that's what we have in some places in the B minor Mass, what we would call a contrapuntal texture, meaning rather than everybody at the same time, everybody has an individual line that interlock, but all have their own horizontal logic.
Okay.
Different. Okay. So now the question is, how do you make that intelligible to a listener, right? If all of us talk at the same time, it's very hard for it to understand. Right. But in music, that's the miracle of music. 4 people can talk at the same time, and you can still understand it. And so the way that would work is, in the voicing of it, we try to decide, okay, at this moment, this is the foreground of the painting, and all these other things are the background of the painting. So it becomes clearer to the listener. I'm making a visual analogy, but and you have to voice it. Your brother uses the right word, voicing. It's like a pianist. You have 4 things going on, but I'm going to bring out this thing. And so that idea we were talking about in the that credo movement. I listened to a bunch of recordings just because I was curious, and a lot of people just play all the parts. But there's a way, I think, and hopefully we'll achieve this with our singers in the Oratory Society, is to voice it so that at this moment you hear the theme, then it passes to this part, then it passes to this part.
Okay.
And that theme, which is consistent in certain ways, is then very recognizable after the second or third
It's unifying
time.
in the overall.
In the architecture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's the answer to your brother's question.
Okay. So just to take a step back. So I think that's a beautiful thing about music, in the sense that when you say when 4 people are talking, right?
Yeah.
It's very difficult to listen to all 4 at the same time, because you're trying to understand what they're saying, right? The difference is in the music, you don't have to In other words, I'm not paying attention to the words, to be honest with you. All I'm paying attention is to the music, right? And how that music, interlocks with each other or conforms, whatever you guys terminology you use, right? And that's the beauty. My ear is listening to that and is enjoying it, right? So that's the difference. I think it's just, to a certain respect, it's just a lot easier for the listener, right? I'm not saying it's easy for you, but easy for the listener when the full voices may be all different. But I don't care what they're saying. It's just the music that I'm interested in.
Well, and there's two things. So one, the text will come through on that theme, right? But you're right, and Xavier, and the beauty of harmony is that four things can happen and they make one whole.
And in a lot of cases in this, it's 5.
Yes.
And then some other times it's 8.
He wrote this across, and I'll talk about this in a minute. We can talk about why he ever wrote a piece that was so impractical, right? He was a practical church musician. He could have never performed this church. It was much too big and long. And he in a sense, wrote it over 30 years and compiled it in the last few years of his life.
Wow.
So Christine's right. There are many different orchestrations, and you go from 4 voices to 5 to 6 and even to 8 in the one spot. And that's because it wasn't all written at one time. He was compiling from different eras of his life. Okay. I was thinking, we were on the wrong segment. We missed the wine. We didn't get any of the wine. But imagine, when you taste the wine, you taste one at a time. Imagine you could, in a coherent way, taste 4 wines at once. That's kind of what Bach is doing. And it's obviously like that. It's of the highest quality and vintage.
Okay, so my question would be, because sometimes when I'm, like for example, I've seen when you kind of do choral work, sometimes you have like the male voices singing and then the female voices singing, and they kind of like play off each other. So when you sing, there's like 5, 8 different voices. Are you talking about like male and female together, or just kind of 8 separate?
No, like in the fugues, it's definitely where there's an entrance for the first sopranos, then there's an entrance for the altos, then the second sopranos, then the basses, then the tenors, or some other combination. We're not all coming in at the same time, and we have related but different lines.
Which requires a lot of rehearsal time.
Wow. Yes, it does.
That was literally
and a lot of sight reading.
How do you even blend that out as a singer or conductor?
We rehearse a lot.
We practice a lot. This one has definitely required more practice by all of the singers on their own outside of rehearsal time, because so many of especially the pretty exposed lines where only one part is singing. If you're that one or singer that doesn't quite have it nailed down,
imagine
you got yourself a little solo.
Imagine you're climbing up a mountain and it's wooded, and so you're climbing and climbing. You can't see the view. This is what it's like a little bit working on the Bach. I mean, you can see the beauty, but it's like those last 2 weeks of rehearsal. You start to get near the top, and the trees disappear, and all of a sudden you can see the most extraordinary view you've ever seen. And that's about, hopefully, where we're getting with the singers. People, when this piece was not performed for 100 years after it was completed, partly the score just wasn't widely known, and also people thought it was impossible. And so it's amazing to think now, that a high-level community chorus can do the B minor mass. Wow. But it is a mountain climb, to Christine's point.
So if you're one of the people in the choir, right? Because I always felt that, you are singing at a particular, I don't know what they call it, but you're singing to a tune that's yours, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, everybody else singing to a different tune. Mm-hmm. How hard is it for that singer to all of a sudden switch because he's being pulled or she's being pulled by something else? Does that happen? Is that hard?
It is initially when we're reading it. That definitely comes into play, but our singers are very strong at sight reading. Being independent singers, and a part of that skill of singing in an ensemble like this is being able to hear the other parts and know how your line fits in with the harmonies that are crossing constantly, and be able to keep yourself oriented to where you need to be. But in fact, there are some places where we are intentionally told by our maestro here to switch lines because he needs a certain line to come out
Yeah,
more.
it
So
needs to
there are
come out
some
of the
places where
section
some first sopranos might pop down to the second
Yeah.
soprano line and vice versa.
You know, so it's an interesting question, right? And I think when you're a kid, like let's say you sing in high school choir, I think that's when you first encountered that experience. You're like, whoa, there's parts around me, and if I'm not careful, I'm going to gravitate to one of them.
Right.
But then you get used to that, what it's like to listen to other people and sing your own part, and there's a huge excitement in that, you know, you discover when you're young. And you also develop that skill where I can sing my part and listen a bit to others, but not suddenly sing their part instead.
Right, exactly.
So by the time, hopefully, except maybe our few high school singers that we have in there who are good, by the time we get to Oratorio Society, they've gotten pretty good at that skill.
Yeah.
It should be second nature.
Yeah.
I would think so. I just remember, you know, when you're a little kid, you sing, you know, Mary Had a Little Lamb. Somebody starts later. Before you know it, it's like I'm singing somebody else's lines. Like, oh, this stinks. I didn't do my job. So, but I guess, yeah. I mean, there's just a lot of training that goes on, and so by the time they get
if you
to
think
where you
about
are,
it, when you ever hear a kind of an adult orchestra or chorus, there's probably hundreds of years of experience. Maybe thousands of study and practice represented on that stage at any moment.
yeah.
And as a conductor, how does, because I know obviously when you're conducting, you sometimes, I think, give like cues to people to kind of like, okay, this is your section. If there's so much switching, how often can you like give the cues like, okay, you're going, now you're going? Is it like constant, or do you have to
constant.
really hope that everyone remembers that?
No, it's constant.
It's constant.
It's constant.
Yeah.
That's why you don't, as a conductor, you don't start with the B minor mass. You should conduct for a lot of years before. Well, and to be honest, also, I've been with the Oratorio Society now almost 15 years. This is the first time I programmed the piece. I would not have, you know, you got to make sure your choir's ready for it, and you're ready for it, and so on, because it deserves a lot of respect. And it's incredible music. So, and the choir is ready for it. It's going to be beautiful.
Is the conductor ready for it?
Yes. I have one advantage. I should be more humble and say you're never really fully ready. You got to keep studying. I have conducted it before. I conducted it at the University of Virginia with the UVA University Singers in 2010, and that was the first performance at UVA ever of the B minor mass. So I was very proud of that one. And we took it to Washington back then, so we did it twice. So Oratorio's done it a couple times through their history.
But before you.
All before
Yeah.
my time, yeah. So this is the first time I've done it with this.
This is my fourth time singing it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you can imagine for some of us, I've played continual organ on it once, I've sung it at least once, I've conducted at least once, so this is at least my fourth too. But for a lot of our singers, right, Christine?
For a lot of the singers, it's definitely the first time we've done it.
First time.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled about that because they should have a chance in their life if they're good to experience this piece. And the great thing is then the audience doesn't have to have any training to experience this incredible music.
Yeah.
You just come and enjoy it. And it is
Speaking of the audience, the center orchestra sections are sold out. There are no seats left in the center. So just sides, loge, balcony.
But there's still good seats,
There's still
Christine.
lots of seats. There's still lots of seats.
Yes,
but just a testament to the popularity of this piece, that already 2 weeks out, and there's just
good point.
a lot of the prime seats have already been spoken for.
Although, and this is an old Cabo, right?
Correct.
And we go there all the time, and I'll be honest with you. To me, and listen, I don't have the best ears in the world. I'll have to be honest with you, but I don't care where I sit. It just seems to me I enjoy it all the time, and there's something to be said about experiencing live. A piece would be a symphony or an oratorio, whatever. Huge difference versus no matter how good that CD can be or it comes through.
Absolutely.
The other methods you get today.
Yeah.
Nothing like it, because you just all of a sudden you're paying attention. It's like, oh wait a minute, he's playing that, and the sound is coming from there, and the sound is coming from there, and then when the drums go, in some cases, like you just hear. I mean, it's just a whole different experience.
100%. There's no replacement for live performance.
None whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. No matter how good your speakers are,
Yeah.
and it might be more perfect on a CD, but it's not live. There's no the way the sound can surround you. And you're right, Xavier. It's a beautiful hall to hear music in.
And particularly
intimate
this
for 850 seat hall. It's
Oh, yeah,
intimate.
absolutely.
Yeah. I remember last year when I went to go see Beethoven's Night, when all the voices are going. I mean, you could almost even feel your chair shaking just from the voices. It's incredible. It almost feels
Vibrations
Yeah.
of the universe.
heavenly.
There will
in a
be
way,
some
but-
moments like that in the Bach,
I bet.
for sure.
And, I have another question too. So there's an orchestral ensemble
Yes.
as well. How do you balance? Because I mean, there's a lot of voices sometimes. Like, how do you figure out how to try to make sure the instruments kind of shine through and not get overshadowed by the voices? Or is that the intention of the piece, kind of the voices to overshadow the instruments?
Well, okay, so in rehearsals, I've been blessed. I've conducted a lot of different choral orchestral works, but pretty much my favorite thing to do, singing with orchestra, is just about my favorite medium. And we'll have solos, 5 very talented solos coming from around the country for this as well. Balance is always a challenge, but when you do bigger works, usually the orchestra is favored, it is winning the balance war, and you have to bring the orchestra down a little and let the chorus come through.
Yeah.
In terms of diction, because they're needing to express 2 languages, the text and the music. In this case, it should work pretty well because the orchestra is a smaller size orchestra, right? More fitting for a Baroque piece.
Right.
And the chorus is fairly large. We're almost too big to do this piece. We aren't. I mean, I think everybody should do it, but it's a big choir. You could do this piece with 32 singers. So I think hopefully there actually won't be too many balance problems. And your point is good, Michael. We will have to make sure that certain orchestra lines shine through. Because, for example, in some of those 5-part choral fugues, it's actually not just a 5-part fugue. There are more parts in the orchestra, those lines your brother was talking about, that you want to have come out of the texture. So we'll have to make sure they come out in the orchestra as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be a busy week next week.
Yeah. You have not too many, 10 days left, right?
Yeah.
Let's say the first, yeah. So
Yeah.
I assume there's going to be a lot of practices.
Correct.
We have a few. Yes.
Correct.
Well, at least we have one pro here, right, that has done this before us for
Yeah,
singing.
it's great to have.
And then
Look,
we
it's great to have people like
Yeah.
Christine, who, in a sense, is along with a few others, she's a soprano in the soprano section, are leaders in the section because they have strong voices, they have strong musical ability, and strong musical knowledge and experience. So that can help.
Yeah.
And we still have to become all on the same page as a team, so to speak. We have to be on the same page musically, but that helps
Tremendously.
a lot.
Yeah.
And it's also, you were saying this about the Beethoven a minute ago, it's like a spiritual experience. I hope for our listeners that part, comes through too. I mean, they don't have to be believers of some kind, but I know you guys are spiritual folks, and Bach intended it that way. Like, he wrote on the last page of every score, SDG, Soli Deo Gloria, which means to the glory of God. And that was something he believed deeply. Yeah. So comes through in the beauty of the music, which will come through no matter what your beliefs are. It's extraordinary. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, this is great. I mean, looking forward. I mean, unfortunately, we won't be here. Unfortunately,
Yeah, but that's why now I'm getting a little somber.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we're already-
where are you
We're
How do
already,
we get you
we're
back?
already, we're gonna be in New York that weekend.
Oh, bad timing. Maybe we can get you at a dress rehearsal.
Oh, I won't. Yeah,
I wouldn't mind that. To be honest with you.
We'll talk after the show.
All right.
But yeah, so for our listeners who still want to buy tickets, where can they go? When's the show? All the
Head to our
details.
website, www.oratoriosociety.org.
Okay.
Or arts.
Or Arts box office with UVA. The tickets are being sold online yet this week because it's exams now for UVA. The box office phone line is offline, but the online is still online through Friday the 9th at 11 a.m. And then that will be closed as well, and any remaining seats will be sold at the door.
At the door.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Got it. And the performance is
May 11th.
May 11th, Sunday, May 11th
11th.
at 3:30 p.m. in Old Cabell Hall.
okay. Wow.
Now, if you
So you
can
can
go-
take mom to brunch or dinner, and this
Yep.
in the middle.
Absolutely.
In the middle.
Exactly.
No, that's fantastic. Yeah. No, it's it's worthwhile. I mean, it is a beautiful piece, I have to admit.
Extraordinary.
I mean, it's a great memory that I have.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, you heard it at
Yeah.
Carnegie.
Yeah.
Who performed it when you were at
I
Carnegie?
don't remember.
Okay.
Sorry, don't remember.
Well, at least you experienced it,
Yeah.
though. That's,
I was literally in just my like first or second year in college, and I happened to see it, and I literally went by myself. I said, let me just
for
go.
you.
Yeah,
Good
and
for
I went
you.
there,
Nice.
and it's like, whoa, this was good.
Bach knew what he was doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
Michael, Christine,
Yeah,
thank you
thanks
so
for
much
having
for
us
coming
back
on.
again.
Thank
It's
you.
always a
Anytime,
pleasure.
The best
Yeah.
to you both, and good luck
luck,
that night.
yes.
I know
Thank
it'll
you.
be a success.
Thanks.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks as
Thank you.
always.
Thank you so much. They really hyped that up, Michael and Christine, didn't they?
Yeah, really.
Especially, I was like, well, Michael's like, it's one of the greatest works. I'm like, well, but Beethoven's Ninth. He's like, no, better. Like they did Beethoven's Ninth last year. I went with, I think it was like Alex or something
Yeah.
like that. I was like,
Yeah.
Beethoven's Ninth. He's like, oh, better. I'm like, oh my goodness. So.
I know.
Yeah. But from one great guest, now we're joined by, last but not least, our good friend Matthias Young from Matthias Young Realty. Matthias.
Sometimes they say leave the best for last,
Yeah.
right? Huh?
Well, I was the last, right? So I mean,
It doesn't always work that way.
okay. Thank you.
Only 7 minutes left, but
No, we extend for
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
We extend.
I'm trying to put everything in the 7 minutes. Very useful information. No small talk today. No, I'm kidding.
No. We extend the show. We
That's the nice thing about podcasts.
Exactly.
You go in there the next 5 minutes until Jerry just comes over here and just
Yeah.
says, "Hey, you guys got to
Yeah,
get out of here."
exactly.
Out here.
Then we got to go.
exactly.
I know.
No, I'm glad to be back. Always a pleasure.
Always fun to have
yes.
you. Always fun to have you.
And I was happy to see returning guests before me. Michael and
So
Christine.
you said it right.
have
I
been
didn't say
here
it
before.
right.
But also someone new, at least to me.
Yeah. We had Scott on maybe like 2-3 years ago. So.
Yeah.
You did already.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Xavier had done that show, so the first time I was meeting Scott, but yeah. What happens, Xavier was like, have we had them? He goes, I think we had him like really early on. I said, the problem is you've been doing the show for 4 years now. So if, what I'm saying, like, in fact, rally recent, 2 years ago would still feel like
And
a
they
long
show me
time.
you show me the website and you showed me him, and I said, yeah, I remember him.
Yeah.
I didn't remember his name, of course.
And sitting here waiting for my turn, listening to guests before me, sometimes can be a little humbling, because they either have great cultural skills or ways to contribute to the cultural horizon, or agricultural, like Scott with his vineyard. And then I sit down here and, folks, let's talk about the market and real estate. It's just a different kind of conversation. Important to have, and obviously something I'm passionate about,
Yeah, well,
but
that's the
very
key.
different too.
Well, that's the key. I mean, we all have our quote unquote specialties, right? We all have our passions, right? And sometimes you think it's like, I look at people that, sometimes paint or, even just construction, home construction. It's like, it's like, wow, how do they do that?
how do you
right?
do that?
But then people say, well, I don't know what you do. I don't know how you do it. And so, that's the difference. It's just we all have our, gifts from the good Lord. I guess I'm allowed to say that.
Some of us are still looking for him.
What does that mean, Michael? We'll
I don't know,
talk
was that
about
alluding to
after
me
the
or
show.
I don't know.
It's
yeah.
an open-ended
Knowing
question.
Michael,
Open-ended rhetorical question.
knowing Michael, I know exactly what I was trying
It
to
shall
say.
apply to whoever feels.
Exactly. In a good way, bad way, anyway.
All right, so I know you have some thoughts on the market, and let's be honest. I mean, this 2025 kind of started with a bang across different sectors, and I know even in our, in the financial markets, there's been a lot of uncertainty causing a lot of angst amongst investors, and markets up, markets down, markets up, markets down, different markets up, different markets down. So maybe you can tell us a little bit, if you can, a little bit, how has this impacted at all the real estate market?
I think what we all have in common is that we don't have an answer to how things are going to look like next week or next month, right?
Even tomorrow, right?
That unites us all, and that pretty much describes the situation we are in, whether it's us professionals or the people we work for and with.
Right.
We are all sitting in the same boat. We just have certain different levels of information access, I like to say. And what I thought would be fun for today is look at a few really sensational headlines that I found over the last few days. And while they give me a smile or a grin when I read them, because some of them are fear-mongering, others are just, to get attention. But those are the same quotes that my clients read. And some of them, many of them, have a reaction to it. And I think that describes quite well how consumers feel in the US right now. And here in our area as well, as stable as we always think Charlottesville market is, and I think it will remain stable to a certain degree, it does something, it's psychology. And anyway, so those headlines are: March home sales were the slowest since 2009. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time
That's
ago.
a long time ago. And during the market that we all know was not a fun market.
Yeah, was that still considered part of the recession?
Sure, yeah.
Oh, here from Politico, home sales fall to lowest levels since the financial crisis. So those are quite the buzzwords, right? What does that do to someone who is trying to move his family here to Charlottesville, trying to buy a house, versus what does it do to someone who's just trying to find a better living situation in Charlottesville, maybe has less pressure to relocate?
Right.
Those are the things that I talk to people about, because everyone's circumstances are different. Another headline: housing market stalls as homeowners struggle to sell. Quote, "We are really bleeding."
Well, yeah. You're right.
March home sales slowed in a lethargic opening to the spring buying season. And others. Wall Street Journal as well talks about how home sales fell. And that's all data looking at March. It's too soon to have magazines and newspapers talking about April due to the lack of numbers. Today is May 1st. I think it's a good time to look at the last few weeks and months and how things have changed. And we have seen, as you said, Xavier, we had things go up and down on a weekly, sometimes on a daily basis. And how do you make big life decisions based on what you experience, right? What does it do to a home buyer that really wants to purchase this house for his family, but then in the evening he looks at his retirement account and sees a big drop? What does it do to his confidence, or maybe to his ability to qualify for a loan? So those are big questions and observations right now, and I understand why some people struggle to make this decision, whether it's because they all of a sudden don't have the funds or the eligibility for this mortgage that they're looking at, or just because they don't have the confidence. And so, at the same time, dealing with those headlines can be challenging for us because they might not necessarily apply to our local economy, to our local market. Every time I'm here, we talk about Charlottesville and how it might be unique in that regard, because we have big economic drivers here in the area, whether it's UVA or tourism, or the proximity to DC, or other big employers in the area. After all, the area is growing. It's not just UVA, right? So in that context, where we say we are better off here than other parts of the country, but the numbers show or tell a different story all of a sudden. So, and that's interesting and a little humbling for us real estate professionals in the area, because all of a sudden, open houses that we hold are less frequented. We have less interested parties for one house. We all remember in the last 4, 5, 6 years, we had bidding wars on homes within the city or in the surrounding county. And while those still happen, the numbers are clearly different. So that's a new experience. And that also means, interrupt me, I'm rambling along here.
No.
No.
I have some thoughts, but go ahead. Finish your thoughts. Yeah.
It also means that buyers of a home might be in a much better decision all of a sudden. And that's very interesting because every time there is a financial crisis, there are some people that clearly benefit from it, whether it is because they have a sense for it or because they look at the numbers each day. But there are always opportunities, right? So if you're selling a house right now, you are probably looking at longer time on the market, possibly having a conversation about reducing the price if it doesn't sell, which is an interesting phenomenon in a city like Charlottesville. We haven't seen this in a long time, and all of a sudden it is a topic we have to talk. But then also I believe, and I want to be careful here because real estate professionals, just like mortgage lenders, they often say it's always a good time to buy a house, right? And it's not always genuine, but I understand why we sometimes say that, or often say that, because our income is based on sales, right? And so you don't hear me ever say this is a good time to buy, because that's a very general statement and it's not specific to the person wanting to buy. But I'm wondering if right now might actually be a good time to purchase a home at a lower price. And that's a big deal in Charlottesville, right? We have very high home values here. And maybe right now is the time where things normalize a little bit. We always talk about it's a seller's market, right? And while it's still not a buyer's market, things are coming a little bit together right now. And so the position a buyer is in is different and can be more beneficial. Yeah. So that was a long way of saying lots of news, lots of headlines, right? And I find it challenging, but also, an important task to see how they apply to us. Sometimes they don't, but some of those clearly do. And I think you two working in the financial advisory world, you deal with the same headlines right now. You probably have people calling you every day. Xavier, how does this news relate to my savings account and to my, what's the projection? Can you tell me? And I'm curious what you say, because you can probably not tell him what's going to happen tomorrow. No one can.
This is very interesting because, without any doubt, I'd say over the last, since really right after COVID, right, where interest rates dropped so low, and people were able to get very low mortgages, right, it has caused a whole different phenomena in the real estate market that we never had before, right? And we do see that sometimes with even clients where it's like, they love to downsize, but they realize if they downsize, if they sell what they have and downsize, they may be paying more or the same for a smaller home because their mortgage are so low, right? So it forces them to stay where they are because they say, this doesn't make any sense to us. Why I would downsize and pay more, right? And second of all, I mean, without any doubt, yes, I see those statistics all the time. Nationwide, here's the number, and you sit there and you go, if there's anything where nationwide doesn't apply, is real estate, because real estate is truly a very local, phenomenon, right? What has happened in Charlottesville is different than what's happened in the middle of Oklahoma, for example, right? So events of that sort, right? What happens is, you're right, it's just the psychology. People come back and say, oh my Lord, look what's happened. It's like, well, yeah, what does that mean? That means that people that own their home right now are sitting there and going, I can't find anything. I mean, here in Charlottesville, let's be honest, I mean, it's like, if I own a 3,000 square foot home and I want a 2,000 square foot home, well, good luck, because There's just, it's not like there's an abundance of them, right? And so you finally see one, you go, well, that's pretty expensive, and now I have to, let me see, either I pay cash, or if I have to get a mortgage, I'm paying the same amount. So those are challenges that you're seeing here. But without any doubt, I think what has happened this year is that the news with regard to just about everything has been, boom, almost somewhat kind of fear-mongering. In other words, tariffs, oh my Lord, we're not going to have toys for Christmas. Tariffs, oh my Lord, cars are going to be like 50% more expensive. So everything they come out with is somewhat creating uncertainty and angst amongst the consumer, right? And you sit back and you go, yeah, without any doubt, these are all issues that may occur, right? But the probability of them actually, occurring are very small. But you have to talk to your client, and like you said, yeah, you're just going to get a lot of phone calls, and you have to sit back and say, all right, let's take a step back. And in your case, it's like, why are we buying a home at this point in time, right? And go through the process. Okay, here's the pros, here's the cons that you went through. What has changed? And if anything has shifted from pros to cons, that makes a huge difference. Okay, you might want to wait. But if it hasn't, it's like, then nothing's changed, right? If anything, maybe the market's a little bit more in your favor, right? So it's challenging because, as you mentioned, it's just people read a piece of information and right off the bat, it's like the behavioral science says, oh my Lord, it's the end of the world, right? Because they read it, right? And you just have to kind of sit down with the client and take a step back and say, first of all, at least in our end, we're not investing for the next 3 months. We're investing for the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, depending on the age of the client, right? And that's what's important, saying, listen, we've had these number of good years. We've always said, sooner or later, there's going to be down years. It happens every single, 3, 4, 5 years. There's down years. This may be one of them, right? Your portfolio can survive that. You can survive that, and we move forward, right? Making rash decisions based on, an article that I read would be the worst decision to make, So it's tough, but I would say, you're right. It's the real estate market in particular is going through, and I call it a phenomenon only in the sense that, you have so many homes, so many owners of homes with low interest rates, that it is a challenge for them to say, yeah, I'd like to, I live in a small house, I want a bigger house. But boy, I got a 2 3/4% interest rate on here. If I get a bigger house today, I'm paying 7% on more money because I got to borrow. That's a huge ticket, right? So is it the right time to do it? Can I do it today?
May I interject with a question for you? Do you think it's possible that interest rates could come down? All things considered, what's happening based on yesterday's news and the general overall feeling?
So,
economically speaking, that could suddenly boost the housing market?
I remember late last year, the prognosis was that we will see a 5% sometime end of 2025.
5% in the 10-year?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm curious if that still applies, or if those people that were so optimistic about that are actually revising that statement now.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, so obviously we had a quote-unquote negative GDP, right?
Yes.
Now, I think the market's kind of washed that away by the fact that, wait a minute, consumer spending was good, business spending was up, government spending was down, which we're all in agreement, I think. It's like, I don't want the government spending, I want public spending, right? Imports were huge, right? Because everybody's worried about tariffs. And imports, you just subtract imports from your economy, and that's what's costed, right? So I think the markets have to look at the numbers and said, yeah, this is a one-time event, right? So I think the Fed is going to be on hold for a little longer and see what the impact of these tariffs are on our economy. So I don't think they're in any rush to cut interest rates. But if the tariff situation, if you get some deals and the tariff situation is such that, increases, let's say, inflation by 0.5% to 1%, I think even then, they might go ahead and say, yeah, I mean, we can cut this by 0.5% or whatever. It's the long-term rates that impact mortgage rates, right?
Okay.
So it's the market perception as to whether or not we're going to see higher inflation. That's the key. And, that's a whole different story. But, we had rates drop at the beginning of the year, right? And in April is when we had that real bounce back, right? And they're coming down a little bit. So I think by the end of the year, unless there's major surprises and inflation, I think rates may be lower than they are today.
But that would be good news.
That would be good news, yeah, absolutely, especially for real estate.
But speaking of good news, as I said earlier, I think it's also a time for opportunities. I think a lot of people could really benefit from this. There's this quote, and it's not mine, I'm not sure who said it, but in a changing market, yesterday's price is not today's value.
True.
Right? In a changing market, yesterday's price is not today's value. If you combine this with the situation of a higher inventory, which we have, interesting to say in Charlottesville, but we have more houses on the market, we have more to choose from, we have less buyers looking at one specific home listing, and so the sellers are facing, the question: do we lower the price in order to sell the property? And I think that has an impact. I'm not going to sit here and say home values will decrease in Charlottesville. That's not a good statement to do, but I think in some cases we will see that, or at least a stagnation for a while.
Yeah.
And I think that opens up the field for those that have struggled in the past to find a home here.
Well, you made a very good point before, and I think this is a critical point for you, right? And that is, over the last 3-4 years, unfortunately, if you're a buyer, what you had was extreme competition where, if a house, and I'm just going to throw this number out, right, just to make it simple, if a house was selling for $1 million, then you had a bidding war. I'll pay $1 million, and 50, and I'll make $1.1 million, and before you knew it, you're paying $1.25 million for a house that you felt was only really worth for $1 million, but you had too much competition. In today's market, maybe that $1 million is, that's the price, and so it's not going to go higher than that. So from a buyer's perspective, maybe there may not be much room to lower it, but you're not in a bidding war like you were before. I'm just, I'm not a real estate guy, but just from that perspective, maybe that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that the power dynamic shifts a little bit. As a home buyer, you might not be forced to waive a home inspection anymore, which is not a good idea in the first place, or compete with many others for the same home. It just puts you in a much better position. That's what I mean with we're not turning away from a seller's market, but we are approaching a more balanced dynamic maybe, and I think that would be good for everyone here in the market. And I think time has shown, or history has shown, that the economy can be resilient, and I think the economy will bounce back. I think we are all just trying to find out when that will be right now, and as a result, consumer confidence will come back as well. And what will that mean for demand for housing? Prices will go up again, right? So maybe right now is actually a good window of opportunity for those looking. Does that mean that we will see an increase in second home market in Nelson County? Probably not, right? But specific to Charlottesville, where it has historically been so challenging, I think now is actually a good time. So I'm excited about the opportunities. As tough the situation may be for others affected by import regulations, the trade wars, higher tariffs, and so on. But speaking of real estate here, I use the word, it's humbling a little bit, especially for sellers, but again, exciting times in that regard. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So it's a little bit of a positive spin while we are reading a lot of negative headlines currently. And maybe we leave the show exactly at that.
Well, no, but to your point, Matthias, we see this a lot of times in finance too. When people are panicking, there's always someone who sees an opportunity.
Yep.
You know, and that's sometimes how people, you know, you hear these stories about whatever, you know, great, you know, finance guy on Wall Street. That, a lot of times if they made money, it was because of that, because people were panicking and things were going bad. So they start selling and they're reacting, and someone's like, no, I see an opportunity. You know, so even in real estate, I think that's always a possibility. That's like where people might not see that there's actually opportunity through all this kind of uncertainty and chaos, you know, so.
Right, and I would just like to see not only investors taking advantage of that situation and that vacuum of consumer confidence, but also individuals like you and me, understanding that they can seize the situation and finally get that home for the family that they always wanted in Charlesville, and not just a big investment group or developer.
Yeah, I would say that's what's important. I agree 100% there. I think what we've seen a lot is, you know, the investment world going in and absorbing, you know, buying a lot of tranches of homes or lots, and I like to see a little less than that. I mean, it is. Listen, it's it's opportunity. It's what capital does. Capital flows to certain areas, but unfortunately, sometimes it pushes the little guy out more than it should. You know? So
it will be interesting to see when I'm here in a month, sometime in I guess in June it will be, how things have developed between now and then, right? Well.
Change is the only constant, right?
Yes.
That's right. Good. Well.
But this is good, and you know what? The only thing I was going to say is that, you know, there's advantages and disadvantages of the world we live in the sense that we get so much information. I mean, you take this little thing here, which when I grew up didn't even exist, right? There's just so much constant flow of news. Boom, boom, boom from everywhere, right? And most of the time, people don't read the article; they read the headline, or maybe the first sentence, and that's what they focus on, right? And I just think it's an overwhelming amount of information that people get, and sometimes they just begin to panic, right?
And it leads to this overwhelming sense of uncertainty.
Yes.
And uncertainty is the enemy of action.
Exactly.
Right? Especially in real estate, especially in your world as well. That's what's going through people's mind right now. It's kind of a paralyzing impact.
Yeah. I always tell the story of my wife watches sometimes, you know, things, and every once in a while she'll call me. She goes, "I just heard this guy says the market's going to crash. Are you prepared for this?" And I said, for every person you tell me the market's going to crash, I'm going to send you an article by somebody who says that the market's ready to take off. You know, so it's like you can't look at it that way. You can't focus on one person and assume that he's a PhD. Who cares?
Yeah.
I don't care if he's a PhD in anything. It doesn't matter. They don't know. You know, you just have to take a step back and say, what's your goals? What are your needs? Does this fit you? Yes or no? Let's move forward. You know? Like I said, sometimes you just have to be a psychologist more than a psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever.
Psychiatrist.
Yeah, psychiatrist.
We do therapy, you know.
Therapy, right. Therapist. Family therapist.
Exactly. Well, I guess when we have you back in a month, Matthias, we'll kind of get the update. But I like what you said, though. Uncertainty is the enemy of action. I got to write that down and keep that one.
I mean,
borrow it.
I feel it too.
Yeah.
Right? Hard to make a decision if you feel like you don't have all the facts.
Yeah.
We could have all the facts, but as you said, we're being bombarded with headlines that get attention. Those headlines are almost never really in depth, right? They just scratch the surface.
Yeah, that's what
they're meant to do.
That's what meant to do. Yes. Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me again.
Thanks
well,
for
thank
coming
you so
on,
much for coming. It's always
Yes.
fun. It's always enjoyable. Thank you so much. Hope the family's doing well.
Yeah.
Little baby. How's the baby now?
16 months, a little over 16 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
She is a troublemaker.
Well, that's good. That's what they're supposed to be.
That's right. Yeah, an exciting time for your family too.
Yes.
Yes.
They're not troublemakers yet. I mean, well, not in the same way
Just-
yours.
yeah. Ours is,
They barely
this-
wiggle at this point.
Yeah, right now it's just the trouble is not sleeping and pooping.
That's right.
Oh, you said the poop word on the radio, Michael.
Ah, it's okay.
It's the other word you can't
Babies
say.
poop. I hate to be the one to tell people. Newborns poop.
Well, send my regards to Alex and to Nick.
I will.
I will, thank you.
We will.
When you
Thank
see
you
him
so
in the
much.
office. And always a pleasure
Same here.
to be here
Same
with you.
here.
We'll see you in
Yeah.
In a month.
June.
Yeah, in June.
Glorious June. All right. Well, that was a full one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was good though. I mean,
Yeah. It's always good to have with
three.
Matthias. He has quiet
Yeah,
wisdom.
no, yeah,
I always
he's-
feel that
he's
way.
got
You know?
a-
He's
he's
like,
got a-
it's like he's a German Buddha. You know,
He had a good quote today.
he did. Uncertainty is the enemy of action.
I gotta write that
Yeah,
down because I'm not
exactly.
gonna remember it.
It's not mine. I read it somewhere.
That's okay. You
Well,
don't have to say that.
I'm gonna,
You don't
yeah,
have to
I'm,
say
I'm gonna say this is what Matthias told
that.
me.
Exactly.
That's why I heard it. I don't care who said it first.
Some copyright infringements.
All right.
But it was great having you on the show, Pops. Thank you for
Thank you.
being here
Thank
with
you
me.
for thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yes, and always big thank you to our sponsors: Emergent Financial Services, Matisse Young Realty, Charlottesville Opera, FABA, Forward Adelante, the premier Latino networking group. I don't know if Alex still says that one.
I don't
as
remember
much.
anymore.
Not as much.
Yeah, not
Not
as
as much. But as always, a big thank you to all our viewers. Thank you for watching. I know, unfortunately, Xavier and I don't look at the comments. We don't
I didn't
really.
get any.
You didn't get any. You don't even know how to even log into your Facebook, probably. But we always do appreciate you watching the show, liking and commenting, subscribing. We wouldn't have any show without you. So that's
Yeah,
always.
no, definitely. Very. It's always wonderful to hear from the viewers. And,
Yes, after the show ends.
Send me an email.
Yeah, who looked the show up? Thank you. But of course, a big thank you, always to the I Love CVille studio for having us. Judah behind the camera. He was busy today. He had a lot of guests. He had to kind of
Yeah, I know.
miss and match, but he made it work like magic. But yeah, we look forward to seeing you all next time. But until then, hasta mañana.